Enjoy this free preview from MyOutdoorTV. With the largest library of outdoor shows, we're the home of the adventurous, the champions, the legends. MyOutdoorTV. Try us free.
This week on Guns and Ammo TV. First, we visit Walther Arms to continue our new shooter training. This week, we demonstrate the orange dot drill to improve your follow-through and target reacquisition in Shooting 101. Next, we take you through 3 portable and nightstand style options by Hornady to secure your firearms in At the Range. Finally, we continue our history series at the NRA National Sporting Arms Museum with a patriotic 21-gun salute, with a look at the collection of U.S. military rifles from the Revolutionary War to the present. All of this and more are on this week's episode of Guns and Ammo TV.
Jim, Springfield Armory is nothing if not innovative. And one of their most innovative pistols is in front of us here, the Echelon. And this has a lot going for it, but a couple things I really want to point out is first, the central operating group, which is a stainless steel chassis that's actually the serialized component.
Right, the frame's not the frame, it's a grip module.
Exactly, and you can change different frames depending on, your need. Also, another cool feature is their VIS, which stands for Variable Interface System. And what that is it's different options, several different pin sets come with the pistol, and it enables you to direct mount a number of different optics on here. So you don't have to know what optic you want necessarily, you can try different ones. Also, they provide inward pressure. There's 2 almost like hooks or notches in the front here that provide inward pressure on the mount itself so that you are not going to get any lateral movement. It's a very smart, very direct mount, and it's low. As you know, when you start getting mounting plates, it becomes less secure and it also sticks up more, which are 2 things you don't want.
Right, well, this should tell you exactly how I feel about this gun. That's my gun. I bought it with my own money.
Me too. So what does that say?
Yeah, so, and when it comes to guns, what I want is something that is user-friendly and shootable. First off, I think Springfield, just in general, but especially with the Echelons, and this is the full size and the compact, the basic sights on it, I think, are as good or better than any other factory sights on the market. The front sight has a highly visible ring, and on the inside of it is a glow-in-the-dark tritium insert. The rear sight, again, front and rear sights are both steel, not plastic. The rear sight has a very visible white U-notch. So you put the dot inside the notch, pull the trigger, good to go. It's got a tactical rack on the front of it, so you can rack it one-handed
operation. That's important in a defensive pistol.
It's got, you talked about the chassis system. Well, it has a great trigger pull, relatively crisp. It's a striker-fired gun. None of them are going to be like a 1911, but it's good. It's between 4 and 5 pounds. I can run this gun, and then when it comes to making it personalized to you, Springfield has already rolled out, it comes with the standard grip module, which means medium texturing and medium size, but they've come out with larger grip modules and one that have more aggressive grip texturing.
Yeah, this is their adaptive grip texture, which is, it's kind of like skateboard tape in a way. It's not overly aggressive. Another thing I want to point out, Jim, has to do with the slide. And you have, they call this a trench here. And so you have, obviously, serrations here, very thick and wide serrations, so you can easily do a press check or manipulate the slide. Speaking of manipulating or racking the slide, it's flared back here, so it has, I don't know if they would want it called this, but it's essentially like cocking ears, so you have a really good purchase when you're manipulating that slide. Just another user-friendly feature.
This gun wants to be shot. So the full-size gun has a 4.5-inch barrel and is fed by flush 17-round magazines. The new compact 4-inch barrel 15-round magazine, so it's a little bit smaller, and you don't really sacrifice much in capacity, but you're going to appreciate it. If you're carrying the gun, that little bit of extra concealability is really going to help you, especially if you're going to be mounting a red dot and or a white light on the gun. And they are very competitively priced with everything else on the market while offering what I think are superior features.
If you're looking for a full-size or a compact, be sure and check out the Springfield Echelon. Taken in steps, I'm gonna come back to the gun and make a good presentation. As I push out, I'm checking, are my sights on target? In this case, they are, so I'm gonna press the trigger. Now I can tell you that first, the shot hit the target exactly where my sights were aligned, so that was good.
Guns and Ammo is brought to you by Fiocchi. Guns and Ammo is brought to you by Smith & Wesson.
No matter where you are on your firearms journey, you can never practice the essentials enough. And one of my favorite drills for doing just that and to use as kind of a skills check is called the orange dot drill. This comes to us from Dave Spalding and his Handgun Combatives curriculum. And the premise of the drill is pretty simple. About 5 yards down range, I have a 2-inch orange target. Now this dot is a fairly small target to encourage precise aiming. And the idea is we're just going to draw the firearm, present to the target, press the trigger, and hope to make a good shot. But the important part is to ask yourself 3 questions during and after the process. First, did my sights align with the target? Did I present the gun correctly so that the sights were where they needed to be and the gun was between myself and the target? The second question is, did the shot go where the sights pointed? Basically, did I do my job in a trigger press and in maintaining that sight alignment to ensure that I was going to get an accurate hit? And finally, did I recover from recoil correctly? After I came out of recoil, were my sights realigned and my trigger prepped for a follow-on shot? It's a pretty simple drill, but you can get a lot of information from what you see on target and in your sight picture. It looks something like this. Taken in steps, I'm gonna come back to the gun and make a good presentation. As I push out, I'm checking, are my sights on target? In this case, they are, so I'm gonna press the trigger. Now I can tell you that I came right out of recoil. Well, first, the shot hit the target exactly where my sights were aligned, so that was good. And then when I came out of recoil, my sights were realigned with the target, ready for a follow-on shot. So that was a good run. Reholster and do it again, a single shot. Again, we were a little bit on the edge of the circle that time, but it was a good hit. The sights were where I wanted them to be, and they came back to target afterwards. To increase the difficulty on this drill, you can either increase the distance to the target or add those follow-on shots and see if you can maintain that sight picture. So that time, when I asked myself the 3 questions, the presentation was good. The gun came between me and the target and the sights were aligned. The trigger press was good. The first shot went exactly where I wanted. But when it came to recovering the sights, I actually over-reset the trigger and pressed too early. So the second shot is just a little bit outside of the target. But that's the great thing about the orange dot drill. It's a small target and you get that feedback so you know what to work on. In this case, I want to make sure that I'm recovering out of recoil and really making a good second shot. So the orange dot drill, a great way to practice those essentials.
Joe, you know, as a firearms owner, you are responsible for making sure that your gun does not get into the wrong hands, and there are a lot of really great options. We'll cover a few of those today, but Hornady is a name that we typically associate with ammunition, right? But the
bullets.
Yeah, bullets. But the reality is Hornady has been in the security game for about a decade now.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that they've been doing it that long. It has been kind of a natural addition for them, though, because as you mentioned, anything having to do with firearms, ammunition, we have to think security, and it is the owner's responsibility to secure those items. What I have here today is a variety of what I would call nightstand solutions. So these are both going to prevent unwanted access, but also keep the firearms close by and easy to get to in case you need them to defend yourself. The first option is the Hornady Security Lockbox. It's a pretty basic lock and key device. It's got a steel shell. They also have options with polymer shells for travel, but this is foam interior, and again, a standard lock and key box. Pretty simple to operate, easy to take with you as well if you were traveling.
Sure, this is great on vacation too, because you can lock anything in here, right? You can lock your passport in here if you need to, if you're traveling internationally, but it's an affordable option, light, small, easy to carry. Now, if you want to step up a little bit to something that maybe takes up a little more space, has a little more room, this is the Rapid Safe, and the Rapid Safe offers a few more options than you're going to get from a standard lockbox, right? For starters, one of the things, obviously, it's bigger. You can put 2 full-size 1911s in here. You can put a full-size revolver in here.
Might be a little
more
tight.
space. It might be a little
But
tight,
you can.
but certainly bigger than this option. The other thing too is you have more access options with this one, right? So Hornady has a really great system where they use RFIDs to access their safes, and what you have to do simply is just push the button. You have access to the safe immediately. It's faster than a biometric. It's faster than a lot of other options, but you have that same level of security here. You also have a keypad if you want to put in a keyed code, and you also have a key lock here. So the thing that I really like about this safe is it's still small, it's still portable, but it offers you that security. It's steel, it's pry-proof.
Yep.
You've got space for your firearms and your accessories in here. You can bolt this down if you want to lock it in place. It comes with a cable. So no matter the situation, whether you're on the road or whether you're at home, this is going to be a security option that's going to work for most people.
Yeah, when you step up into the electronic options, the ones with the keypads and the RFID, typically they do come with a cable power source, but they also include a battery backup. So a lot of, you know, you think about worst case scenarios, natural disasters, the power's out, you still need access.
Right.
Hornady's got you covered there.
Yep.
From the Rapid Safe, we move up to the Night Guard, and here we kind of take the best solutions of the Rapid Safe, that fast access, the electronic keypad and RFID technology, but we go to kind of a hidden in plain sight solution, so kind of a little bedroom camouflage. This looks like a clock. If it was sitting, a big clock, albeit, but a clock all the same. But you give the front of this thing a tap, and you can see that there is a keypad as well as a display showing whether or not it is locked. And then you can still use that same RFID technology and get fast access to your firearm, your flashlight, other items you might want stored there. These things are great, primarily obviously coming from Hornady, designed for firearms owners, but let's be honest, you could use these to secure anything.
Yeah, I mean, these are a great addition to your home, even if you're not specifically going to keep a firearm in here. They're great for firearm owners, of course. And Hornady really is offering a wide range of options here at a wide range of prices. So anything you need, you can get with Hornady Security.
And so a drop-in handguard, like the first one that you demonstrated there, mainly the advantage there is price.
Yeah, they tend to be a lot more affordable than a free float handguard because they don't require as much specialty hardware, if you will, because those free float handguards typically, in most cases, have a proprietary barrel nut.
If you're going to upgrade to a free float handguard, what kind of price is that going to be?
Guns and Ammo is brought to you by Hornady. Guns and Ammo is brought to you by Taurus.
On this week's DIY firearm upgrade segment, we're going to be talking about AR handguards, and I'm joined by Caleb from Brownells. Caleb, I guess first of all, what's the difference between a drop-in handguard and a free float handguard, and why might someone want one over the other?
Yeah, sure. So the main differences between the drop-in and the free float is kind of all in the name. The free float, it's called free floated because it doesn't actually contact the barrel anywhere. Now, on the drop-in handguard, you have multiple points of contact. So I'll use this old 601 as an example here. You have contact in the rear, which is great. That's where your free float also contacts, but you have an additional contact point in the front. Now, this actually will put stress on the barrel. So if you're bracing your handguard on something, you're technically putting a little bit of stress on the barrel.
So that could affect accuracy to a degree?
It could, yeah.
Okay.
In most cases, it's not a big deal, but if you're trying to build a really accurate, like a precision AR, for example, like this one back here, you want to be concerned about that. You want to remove as many variables as possible.
Sure. What other models do you have here, variations of the free float, it looks like?
Yeah, sure. So I'll show you kind of how a free float actually mounts. I removed the hardware from this one. So the free float handguard will just slide on off there. And you can see on the back, this is the barrel nut, and the free float handguard literally just contacts the barrel nut, and the barrel nut screws directly into the receiver.
And so that's a pretty simple DIY upgrade, right? To change out the handguard?
Yep, as long as you're confident with removing your barrel nut and reinstalling it, which is honestly a pretty simple process, you can install a free float handguard. And just because it's free floated doesn't necessarily mean it has to go over the gas block. So in this example, it's going over our low profile gas block, as well as this one here, it went over that gas block. But it doesn't have to be free floated. Take this dissipator, for example, here. This handguard is technically a free float handguard, but it's behind a A-frame style front sight post, but it doesn't actually contact it. So this is another example of what you can do with free float handguards.
Very cool. And so a drop-in handguard, like the first one that you demonstrated there, mainly the advantage there is price?
Yeah, they tend to be a lot more affordable than a free float handguard because they don't require as much specialty hardware, if you will, because those free float handguards typically, in most cases, have a proprietary barrel nut.
And then finally, if you're going to purchase if you're going to upgrade to a free float handguard, what kind of price is that going to be? I mean, I know there's a range, but what kind of money can someone expect to spend on that?
You can expect it to be almost double of most drop-in handguards, depending on what you're getting. And with that, you don't just get the accuracy upgrade. You also get, if you notice, there's M-LOK slots cut in this one. There's rails. You have the ability to mount different aiming hardware.
Which is very important for an AR, the way people want to set it up and customize it. Sure.
Absolutely, especially if you're going to be doing, I'll just use this as an example, shooting with night vision.
Yes.
You want to put aiming lasers on there. You can't put aiming lasers accurately on a drop-in handguard in most cases. You want to go free float.
So there you have it. You can either have a drop-in handguard or a free float. The drop-in is going to be less expensive, but the free float is going to give you more options and potentially enhance accuracy.
21 long guns that, represent the length and breadth of American military firepower. We start off with the flintlock from 1795, made it our first armory at Springfield.
I was gonna wait for a signal,
I was waiting for Bill.
I was hoping he wasn't coming straight over us, but he's coming straight over us.
Guns and Ammo is brought to you by SDS Arms. Guns and Ammo is brought to you by Ruger.
We're back at the National Sporting Arms Museum in Springfield, Missouri with Phil Schreier. And one of the great displays here is you have an absolute complete display of American military rifles from the Revolution all the way to the present.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite, galleries in the museum. It's 21 long guns that, represent the length and breadth of American military firepower. We start off with the flintlock from 1795, made it our first armory at Springfield, and it comes all the way down to the the Colts that are made today, the M4s and A2s, based on the M16 chassis, as you might call it. It represents I've always said how we obtained our freedom and how we've maintained it ever since.
Well, and along the way, you'll see some interesting firearms you don't see in a lot of places. That Hall breechlock is a very interesting firearm.
The Hall's one of my other personal favorites, partly because it was made in Virginia. Hall's was the first what we call the modern manufactured guns. It was the first to use the idea of interchangeability in parts and mass production. And so with Hall's, you have the dawn of the industrial age right there. Harpers Ferry, Virginia, 1819, which is way sooner than Henry Ford's assembly line and all that neat stuff we read about, but don't really learn where that came from.
No, the Hall was used in the Mexican War.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, another one of my favorites is the Winchester Lee straight pull.
Yes.
The other 1895, you know, rifle that's out there. It's
Well,
so
and
cool.
you know, of course, today with the Blaser and so many others, the straight pull has come back, but it actually goes back to the 1880s.
Yeah.
And it was a co-development with Peter Paul Mauser, and his rotating bolt kind of won, but the straight pull was used by several countries and used by us.
Yeah, the Marines especially.
You bet.
know, yeah, on the naval ship.
Yeah.
And again, ahead of its time, it was in, you know, 6mm, which was what the, you know, Garand wanted the M1 Garand to be 2.76 caliber,
Right.
which is right in that same, you know, they really feel that 2.76 is the right zone. You know, 30 caliber may be too big, and anything smaller is too.
Well, they wrestled with that for 10 years, and then, of course, the Garand was issued all through World War II as a 30-06.
Yeah.
But they tried real hard to get it into a smaller caliber.
What out of all of them would you want to go into combat with?
You know what? I trained with the M14, and I'm still an M14 fan. And even today, I've never got past the fact that the 5.56 millimeter is not a 7.62.
No, I agree. I'm a little bit more old school, so while I appreciate the M14, I'd probably, if I had to pick one off the rack, it would be the M1 Garand myself.
But you're right-handed. If you're left-handed,
True.
you would not want a Garand.
That's very true. Yeah.
The American military long guns is really just one of the many great displays you'll find here at the National Sporting Arms Museum in Springfield. So come to Springfield, Missouri, and make a special trip just to see that, because it's worth your time, folks.
Different options, several different pin sets come with the pistol, and it enables you to direct mount a number of different optics on here.
Again, we were a little bit on the edge of the circle that time, but it was a good hit. The sights were where I wanted them to be, and they came back to target afterward. But they also include a battery backup. So a lot of, you know, you think about worst case scenarios, natural disasters, the power's out, you still need access. Hornady's got you covered there.
Yep, as long as you're confident with removing your barrel nut and reinstalling it, which is honestly a pretty simple process, you can install a free float handguard. And
1819, which is way sooner than Henry Ford's assembly line and all that neat stuff we read about, but don't really learn where that came from.